was this big motion sensor light about a couple of yards away from me, and all of a sudden this light just clicks on, and there's this tall and pale creature. It looked really weird proportionately. Its arms were down past its knees, one of which was behind the building as if it was holding something or trying to beckon me towards it. So I start to run for my life, and I make it back to my friend's car, and they're wondering why the hell am I so freaked out.
This is the Cryptic Creature Show. I am Brian, and with me as always is my co-host Todd. What's up, buddy?
Man, I'm pretty excited about tonight's guest, and the reason I'm excited is because we have a new creature coming on, and I believe it's one we've been looking for.
It is. We haven't had one of these yet. I'm pretty excited.
I'm not going to say what it is. We're going to make the listeners wait and listen.
Not yet.
But I'm
hoping.
hoping.
This is like one of those clickbait things. You're going to have to listen to find out.
Fingers crossed, and we're hoping that it's what we think it is. So we're going to bring Corey on tonight, and Corey's going to talk about his encounter he had with a very strange and scary creature.
In Utah, right?
Yeah, I believe it was in Utah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you ready?
Let's get him. Hello.
Hello.
Corey, what's
Welcome.
going on, man? Thanks for coming on and talking to us tonight.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
I believe we were talking a while back and forth a little bit about something strange and peculiar that you saw. Where was this, and what year was this when this happened to you?
This was back in 2016 or 17. It was late spring, early fall, so probably 2016-ish.
Okay, and what state did this happen in?
Utah, just a couple miles from my home, actually.
All right. Tell us what was going on. What happened to you?
Absolutely. So, if either of you have ever been to Utah, you've probably heard of the LDS Church, correct?
What is it?
I've heard of the church, but I've never been to Utah.
Well, I was in something called a young single adult ward, and it's, well, for young single adults, and for them to occasionally, once every week, depends on which branch, but they'll get together on certain days. For us, it was Monday. I don't remember the date exactly, but it was on a Monday because it was at that YSA event, and we had just finished an activity, and we were driving. Everyone was driving back to their place. I didn't have my license back then, so I was carpooling with a couple other people. And, you know, young adults, even in religious groups, tend to be irresponsible. So we were out past when our leader said we were supposed to be back. And so, eventually after our final game of, I think it was touch football or soccer, it was one of those two, we had decided to go back since A, the park was now closed and we were technically trespassing, and B, we were out past when we said we'd be back. So I had decided that I would use the restroom, and so I told all my friends, go get the car started and I'll meet them there. And, the building was locked because it was closed, or the park was closed and everything was all, shut down. And so being a young boy at the time, I had decided to just go on the side of the building, and there was this big motion sensor light, quite taller than I am, obviously, about a couple of yards away from me. And all of a sudden this light just clicks on, and there is this tall and pale creature standing underneath it, about 8 feet up. And its hand was stuck behind the building as if it was holding something. And it sort of just locked. It didn't really have eyes. It had these dark pits where its eyes should have been. And its arms were longer than... It looked really weird proportionately. Its arms were down past its knees, one of which was behind the building as if it was holding something or trying to beckon me towards it. And at that point, I had just finished myself, but I did it right then again. And so I start to run for my life, and I make it back to my friend's car, and they're wondering why the hell am I so freaked out? And I'm just babbling, just telling them to drive home. And I live about 20-ish minutes away from that church, since it's in Ogden and I'm in the next city over in North Ogden. And so it took me a little bit to get home. They dropped me off, and my parents had saw that I was an emotional wreck, and so they had asked me what happened. And either stupidly or not stupidly, I decided to tell them the truth, that I saw a flesh gate, or at least that's what I think it was. And so my father then, being the awesome person he is, gave me a blessing, told me what I saw was real, and that the Lord would protect me, and that he's also had experiences not similar to that, but he's had experiences. And that's my short experience, but I do have my father's experience as well, if...
Yeah, we'd love to hear that.
Of course. And there's actually a news article I can pull up and send. Would you like me to send it in this chat right here, or where would you prefer?
Email.
You can email it.
Yeah, if you have our email.
Absolutely.
Of course you do. What is a flesh gate? I'm looking at this. Supernatural.
Sure.
So it's not a skinwalker. It's something different than a skinwalker. What is a flesh gate to you? Before we go on with your dad's encounter, what is that? What do you describe that as?
Well, I'm actually studying folklore and mythology, and flesh gate to me is more of a humanoid entity that, and I really hate to make this comparison because it's a creepypasta and not a real creature, but the Rake, if you've ever heard that story, just a tall, slender, bald, pale creature, largish claws or hands, dark or no eyes, pits for eyes, etc.
Yeah, I do know of the Rake, and I've actually been longing for a Rake encounter. Brian and I both have. And I think maybe we finally got one. I think you saw a Rake. Can you describe it? Can you describe it for us in detail, more detail?
Of course. It had very pale white, almost alabaster-like skin, and its hands they ended in sort of, I don't want to say claws, but they were more pointed, and they were about my face and a half. They were just massive, and this creature was just emaciated, like very skinny, but incredibly big. Does that make incredibly tall?
Yeah, you said he was 6 to 8 feet tall. Yeah, and
yes, sir.
So what else can you tell us about this thing?
I don't want to say it spoke to me, but it almost communicated somehow. It wanted me closer to it, and I felt that, and I knew that it did. I knew that if I did, I probably would not be here to tell this story.
You're probably right.
You did the right thing, turning around and running the other way.
So this thing, it sounds like it just kind of stepped into the spotlight to get closer to you. Maybe it didn't realize that light was going to come on and just kind of stopped. How far away from you? How close were you guys?
Let's see. I was on the far side of the building, and it was maybe 7 to 8 yards. That's about, what, a yard is 4 feet, I believe?
3, yeah. So like a car and a half length, maybe, something like that?
Closer than I wanted it to be.
Sure. But you couldn't see any eyes? It was just darkness there? Is that what you said?
It had a face. It just, where its eyes should have been, there were just black pits, if that makes sense. Like the eye holes were there, I guess you could say.
What about like a nose and a mouth?
Yeah, that pretty much describes a Rake, what a Rake is.
What about the nose or mouth? Did you see?
I did not notice a nose at the time, and I didn't see a mouth, but I could. I don't know. I felt it more than It was really weird. It was as if It was definitely more of a spiritual thing. I felt it and I saw it, but the way I felt it described it differently than how I saw it.
Did it make any noise?
It did not. Not even when I initially saw it when the light came on.
What about smell? Did it have any smell to it? Any odor?
Not that I was aware of.
So what did your friends say when you told? Did you say you went back and told your friends?
No, I sort of just told them to drive, and then I made up a story about a mountain lion that had called at me or growled at me.
Okay.
Because I figured they wouldn't have believed me.
So how many people have you told about this in your lifetime, do you think?
I've told my immediate family, which is 6 people, not including me. I told my ex-girlfriend. She didn't believe me. I told my current boyfriend. He says he believes me, but I don't really think he does. And there's an app called Whisper that's sort of an anonymous posting app, and I've posted on that. It's last time I checked, which was last year, because it was around the anniversary of when I saw it. I went, what the hell? I'll just check it out. It had maybe 200-ish likes because it was a small Facebook or small Whisper group community, I guess you'd say. So I guess around 206 or 7 total.
So tell us about your dad's encounter. What happened with him?
Absolutely. He was camping up in the Uintas, which is much higher north than where I am right now. And he had an encounter with what he thinks is a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And I don't know what to think of it, but with what I saw, I believe anything he'd tell me at this point. And he was with a group of scouts, and late at night around the campfire, of course, he and them had heard some tree knocking, and then this sort of high-pitched, I don't want to say moan, it was more like a rock star screech, I guess you could say, more of a high-pitched, who am I thinking of? His name starts with an L. I apologize. My dad would know the singer off the top of his head, but I'm not into 80s rock, unfortunately. But he said it was high-pitched, reminded him of some sort of 80s singer. I can't remember his name. And he said that made him into a firm believer of Bigfoot. And actually later, I believe that was in the mid-80s. And later, I'm not exactly sure when, but there was a huge Bigfoot, not necessarily a sighting, but I guess encounter. And there's even a cast of it. I have the website pulled up here. Would you like me to post the link here, you said?
Or you can go ahead and send it to our email, and then we'll post it on our page for you when we drop your
Absolutely,
episode.
sirs. And this encounter actually happened maybe 400, 500-ish feet away from my house. The fish farm in question is just down the street from me, so it's pretty close, but unfortunately before my time. But there's a cast, and there were fish skeletons with, I believe the article said, strange bite marks taken out of them and so on. And I wasn't around back then, so I don't feel qualified to tell that story. I believe that was around the same night as the article I sent you.
Have you heard of any other sightings of the creature that you saw, the Rake Creature, we'll call him, around your area? Have you heard of any other sightings? Or anywhere else for that matter? Did you investigate it after you saw this thing?
I did for a little bit, and then I mentioned that I felt it before I saw it earlier, and while I was trying to figure out what I saw, this was before I knew what it was, I sort of got that feeling again, and that sort of told me, I better stop looking into this thing, or else it might do more than just stare at me next time. And I haven't really looked into it since, and this is as I said, this is the first time I've talked about it in a while with anyone.
So what do you think it was doing with its hand behind the side of the building there?
I don't know. The way its fingers looked, I can't imagine it was holding on to anything. So maybe it was just leaning up against it to brace itself. But at the same time, it didn't look like it needed it. So I'm not exactly sure what it was doing. And I've thought about that a couple times, actually. Maybe it was holding something. Maybe I had stumbled upon it and it had just killed a deer or a rabbit or something, and I had interrupted its mealtime, or I'm not entirely sure.
Well, if the fact that it walked towards you into the light there, or caused the light to come on, tells me it wasn't afraid of you and was going to check you out. You said it was kind of. Did you say it was kind of mind speaking to you and telling you to come closer to it? You said it was kind of communicating with you, but not speaking.
Yeah, it was more like it was speaking to me through emotions than words, if that makes sense. It felt very evil and excited at that time, definitely not curious, and it sort of wanted me to come toward it, and like I said, I felt that more than heard it, because obviously it didn't speak or make any noises at me. So I predict it wanted either, very unlikely, a closer look at me, or to make me its next meal.
Did this thing seem totally flesh and blood to you?
It did, yes. It was... What is the word? What's the opposite of translucent? I apologize. It was...
Opaque.
Opaque, thank you, Brian. It was opaque. Couldn't see its eyes. Like I said, it had dark pits where its eyes should have been. It was definitely a physical creature.
Okay.
Do you think it could have been an alien?
That never crossed my mind, but...
Good question.
That is a good question. I agree.
Hey, thanks. So I'm here.
I guess if that thing exists, it could possibly be extraterrestrial, so I won't rule that out either.
It's just crazy to think that something like this, and for the listeners, if you've never heard of the Rake before, just Google Rake Creature and then hit the images, and you'll see what we're talking about. This scrawny, skeleton-looking, glowing, dark-eyed, or glowing-eyed in this picture, lanky creature. And it didn't have any fur, right? Was it skin?
No, sir.
Like, was it a skin kind of body? Or what was it?
It was most likely skin, because it definitely wasn't bone, and it definitely wasn't fur. I guess skin would be the best way to describe what was on it.
Yeah. So what purpose would something like this be doing, crawling around out there, walking around out there? It wasn't like a sick Bigfoot or nothing like that, right? I mean, they don't look like that.
They have to know good, tell you that.
Yeah.
Most likely not. I always imagined Bigfoots as more full, I guess, thicker, more muscular, I guess.
Mm-hmm. There's been a few sightings of this creature, and like I said, when Brian and I started this is kind of one of the ones that we wanted to talk about. It's taken us a little while to finally get one on here, but we do, it sounds like. It's just crazy to think that these things are out there. What purpose are they serving? What are they there for? Why haven't we seen more of them? Is there not that many of them? Are they just better hiding than Bigfoot is? What do you think about it?
Well, I'd say they're definitely good at hiding, because, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't see this thing until the motion sensor light kicked on, and I probably wouldn't have seen it if that light didn't come on and it was, either tearing me apart or something worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think this thing would have grabbed a hold of you if you would have walked toward it?
Definitely.
It's just so crazy to think that, there's things out there like that. Maybe there's creatures that live down in the earth, deep, and these things kind of come up once in a while, and maybe that's why they look the way they do. I don't know. That's my only explanation. There's some deep earth dwelling.
Could be
whatever.
Could be another dimension. Could be a interdimensional thing. It could be any number of things, really.
They look creepy, I'll tell you that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Definitely creepy. I can't imagine what was going through your mind. Did you believe in Bigfoot and that stuff before you saw this thing? Did you believe in that kind of
Always. And before that, I had wished to see at least some sort of cryptid. Now I know they exist, and now I don't ever want to see them again. I'm not sure if that's or at least I don't want to see that one again. But I wouldn't mind encountering Bigfoot or, something more friendly, or I guess safe, I guess would be the word. There's actually a very well-known cryptid, not in my part of Utah, but have you ever heard of the Bear Lake Monster?
Sounds vaguely familiar to me. I feel like I should know what it is. Bear Lake Monster. Oh, the Bear Lake. Is that the one in California?
No, this one's in Utah. It's on the border of Utah and Idaho, I believe.
Okay.
You're listening to the Cryptid Creatures Show with Brian and Todd. If you're enjoying the show or would like to submit an encounter, visit our website at www.cryptidcreatures.net, or you can email us at info@cryptidcreatures.co. Now back to the show.
Supposedly, there is a sea serpent in there. Depends on which side of the border that you're on. In Utah, it is known as Bessie, and in Idaho, or not Idaho,
I've heard of it.
Wherever else Bear Lake is, in Utah, it's known as Bessie, and on the other side, it is known as Bernard. So there's almost like a little turf war going on between, what is the proper name to call this thing?
Who gets to claim the monster?
Exactly. And there was a story of an early settler who had an encounter with this thing and actually got into a fight with it. I'm trying to recall his name. Let me see if I can hurry and find that.
All right.
I'm looking at the article right now. Nice.
Of the Bessie and...
No. Where his dad saw Bigfoot.
Where your dad saw Bigfoot?
Yes, sir.
Did he actually physically see the creature then?
I don't think... Somebody might have, but it was before I was born. But I know for a fact that there's a trout farm called Coldwater Springs near my house. That's where the main event happened. And there were just piles of fish bones that have been almost ravaged as if by a bear. Except I believe the story was that the number of fish bones was more than a bear could have eaten. Just piles of trout bones everywhere. And supposedly, and I say with quotations, supposedly there were tracks found. And looking at the article, there is a cast.
I saw the foot. Yeah, I saw the cast.
Yes.
That being said, I have a question for you.
Yes, Todd?
Do you have any military bases close to you?
Utah? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge one, and it just slipped my name.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it either.
But you do have one close by.
There, and, yes, Hill Air Force Base.
Okay.
Not sure exactly how far away that one is.
What about wildlife management or protected wildlife area? Do you have any of those close by?
Oh, definitely, yes. There's actually a nature walk just a couple yards. Sorry, I'm pointing, but obviously I'm not outside to give proper gestures. Right. Just down the street, behind me actually, is a nature walk. And right by my place of work, maybe 2 miles away, so pretty dang close, there's also a huge, I think it's about a 4-mile walk as well. And it sort of does this loop around a canyon that it's in.
Is it really mountainous and wooded and forest area, heavy forest where you're at?
Yes, sir. I'm actually, my backyard actually stretches up a mountain.
Okay.
Did you say you were in Ogden?
North Ogden, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, you're in the, there's some hills and mountains right there beside you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, not far from Hill Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the right one. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So where do you think this creature was coming from? Think he lives around there? Think he was just passing through?
Honestly, I have no idea. Utah gets pretty cold, and like I said, it didn't have fur or hair, so I can't imagine it would do well here during the winter. So I don't think it would live in this part of Utah, at least. Maybe in a more deserty, warmer area, maybe Orem or St. St. George, that area maybe?
So, in your opinion, he might have just been. You're hoping he probably was just passing through.
Definitely hoping, yes.
Just once.
Just once. I've got my proof that it exists. That's all I need.
Was there anything else that you noticed about its body? Was it just smooth all over? Did it have like elbows? Did it have knees? Could you tell that it was? Did it have any wrinkles to it? Anything else that you noticed about it?
It did have knees and elbows, yes. As I said, it was sort of leaning against and had its arm behind this building. So it must have had an elbow because its arm was kind of like this, not entirely straight. So it had a bend, so it must have had an elbow and knees. Or at least I'm assuming it would have knees if it had elbows at least. What was the other part of that question, Todd?
Just what else did you notice about on its body? Anything unique or different about it, other than the fact that it was just shaped like a skinny, scrawny, tall human?
Honestly, I expected it to have eyes, but like I said, it just had these big black pits where its eyes should have been. That was the first thing I noticed about it.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was blind. It was just pushing his hand against the building, trying to walk around the corner. I didn't even know you were there.
I'm
kidding.
If that's the case, I hope so.
Yeah, I doubt that.
I'm sure this thing saw you and knew what it was doing. It's creepy to think that there's things like this out there. I mean, it's one thing, like I said, to see a Bigfoot. It'd be definitely one thing to see a dog man, but to see a rake, come on, what the heck?
Yeah,
definitely. Hopefully, if I do ever encounter that thing again, I am saving up for a 12 gauge, so hopefully I'll be a little more ready next time if and when I see it.
So would you shoot it? Let's say you had the same encounter happen again. Would you shoot it?
I would wait for it to make the first move. I don't believe in just outright attacking anything unless my life is in danger. And the thing radiated evil, but it didn't necessarily attack me. Right. If I did encounter it again, and if it did attack me, I would shoot it, yes.
And there's no way this was somebody in a suit. Had you shot them, heaven forbid, somebody playing a prank on you, you just knew when you saw this thing that it was real and it meant business. I'm taking it.
Yes, indeed. It seemed too tall for someone in stilts, and I'd assume someone in stilts, unless they are a very good actor, would be wobbling on stilts.
And really skinny.
Yes, very skinny as well. So unless it was I don't know if I can say this or not, unless it was an anorexic escape artist from a circus, which I don't think Utah has a circus anymore. It definitely was not human.
That's crazy to me. Brian, you got anything for Corey?
Not for that, but for your dad's encounter. We can get back to that.
Yes, sir. What would you like to know?
I'm just looking at the picture here. So down there, down in the wooded area is where it was, by the water?
Yes, sir. Okay. I don't think my dad is actually mentioned in this article, but there is a cast of the footprint. I believe we're looking at the same article on North Ogden Connection, correct?
Yeah, with the two guys pointing down.
Yes, perfect. The other sightings. No, it doesn't mention my dad's sighting by name or...
Yeah, actually quite a few sightings there in that area.
Maybe my dad didn't go forward, which I personally wouldn't blame him. His encounter, he can actually talk about it a lot easier than I am able to talk about mine. I still get shivers whenever I talk about it.
I don't blame you. I would too.
No. Yeah, me too.
I mean, I'd still rather see one of these before I would a dog man, but still, that's got to be like right up there at the top.
Oh, yes.
Does your dad go out looking for Bigfoot creatures or these things or anything? Does he hunt or get out in the woods at all?
Not as much as we used to. He had a heart attack about 7 or 8 months ago. Very mild one. He's okay, though. Good. But it, of course, took a toll on him, and he's still, even now, just recovering and exercising more and more, thankfully. We haven't had much time to camp or hunt or anything like that since, but maybe one day.
Wouldn't it be crazy if someone did shoot one of these things and took it into science and they said, "Oh, we have this crazy, weird, creepy thing crawling around out there. Be careful." They would never say that, but this is...
No, they would never say that. They'd be like, we didn't say anything.
Did this thing have like 5 fingers and a thumb? Did you notice that? Or did it have toes and did it have normal looking feet?
Or was it like the 3?
No, it definitely had 5 fingers. If you could call them that. They were sort of pointy, almost like claws, but I didn't notice nails. And its hand was... This creature was huge, so its hand was bigger than my head, and obviously, as close as I was thankful I wasn't any closer, but at the same time, that possibly could have obscured some detail that I might have missed.
Would you say this thing was about the size of a Bigfoot? Scrawny?
Definitely, yes.
I wonder if there's any correlation with these things and Bigfoot or anything else out there. I would almost want to think that this is an alien coming around. I would want it to be an alien.
That would make me feel better about it.
Yeah, a lot better, because if it's not, I'm afraid to go out there camping at this point.
Yeah, if it's not, where's it coming from? Is it coming from underground? Do you have caves out there by you?
Actually, yes. There are tons of caves in Utah. There's one just on the mountain, like I said, in my backyard that, and I say backyard, but like I said, the whole mountain's basically just cutting off my backyard. So when I say backyard, I mean mountains.
Yeah, I wish that was my backyard.
Me too, yeah. Me too.
But a little way up there, maybe 1.5 miles, maybe, there's a cave in which, I'm trying to remember its name, but it's a very small cave, pretty popular for, what are they called? Not spelunkers.
Mm-hmm.
Spelunkers, cave divers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll, just go in there and do whatever they do. Crawl around, look for bats. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I can't. Guys, when they get in those tight places, that drives me crazy.
Oh, yeah. You claustrophobic a little bit. Squeezing through them cracks.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Wonder if you're going to be able to get back through, or you're going to die in there.
Yeah, nope.
Definitely.
So you got caves, you've got military bases, and you've got heavily wooded areas, nature preserves, protected wildlife protection reserves. All the ingredients necessary to make a cryptid stew of things running
you're
around.
In the middle of it.
Yeah, you are.
I always joke around with my parents. Utah is a melting pot of not only different cultures and people, but for cryptids and unknown creatures.
I think it's safe to say Utah is a melting pot of weird.
No offense.
Indeed.
No offense.
None taken. As much as I love this state, after what I've seen, I'm kind of itching to get away.
Utah is beautiful.
Indeed it is.
Where would you go? Where would you think you'd want to go if you got out of there?
Somewhere flat.
Somewhere more flat. As much as I love the woods and the rural areas, maybe a big city where something like that wouldn't be able to exist because there's no wood. And
I wouldn't say that.
Fair point. But maybe less likely to be, I guess. Maybe a little more skittish around people.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows? People have seen Bigfoot and other things right in their backyard, digging in the trash, just outside of... we just talked to a lady right outside of Indianapolis. Seen a couple.
Yeah.
Not far from... not far out of the city. I mean...
With the UFO encounter.
Yeah, you guys ever have any UFO activity where you're at?
Utah? Yeah.
Well... I follow MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, I believe it's called.
Okay.
Yep.
And they periodically send out updates, and I haven't seen anything recently about Utah, but like I said, there's Hill Air Force Base not too far away from where I am, so I'm not saying the government's covering it up, but I'm not saying that they're not covering anything up either.
And I think, isn't somewhere out there in Utah, in the desert out there somewhere, there's some nuke silos, isn't there?
I'm not entirely certain.
Well, you shouldn't know about that if you do. But
I should.
They're not top secret.
I'll tell you something. If the government is covering stuff up, and then they are covering these things up, if they know about them, they're covering these things up. That's my opinion.
100%. This is going to make me sound like a far-right, hick, conservative person, but I really do not trust the government because they've covered stuff up in the past, like MK Ultra, and there was some sort of massacre that happened to a whole bunch of Native Americans that they blamed on other Native Americans. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's probably not a lone incident, so I do not trust the government one bit.
Well, you're on the right show there, so... Most recently, the Ohio incidents.
Yeah.
Ohio incidents. I'll have to look that up.
We had the train derailment.
And the big
and then the explosion.
It just happened.
Mm-hmm. Something's going on. Do you think the government could be making these creatures?
I wouldn't put it past them because, like I said, MK Ultra was a very horrible experiment to see if they could mind control humans through various psychological and physical forms of torture. And so I definitely wouldn't put it past them. If they've done that in the past, they still might be doing it.
Well, if they are, my last question for you. If they are doing it, what do you think this Rake Creature... So I always say to myself, if the government's creating Bigfoot or whatever, Bigfoot is a gorilla and a man mix. If Dogman is being created, it's a wolf and a man mix. If, whatever. What do you think? If this thing is being created, a man, obviously it's shaped like a human, so what would it be mixed with? Did it remind you of anything other than a human form?
Let's see, it was very pale, hairless, had black pits for eyes. Maybe... This is going to sound very strange, but maybe a mole?
A mole? Like a creature underground? Makes sense to me. Like we said, I think this...
That would explain the claws and the black eyes and the...
Yeah.
He probably doesn't need to see
Actually,
very well.
Probably if that light hadn't kicked on, you probably would have never saw it.
Definitely. I am so thankful for...
So stealth.
Did he act like he was blinded when that light came on, or was it just a real dim kind of slow moving? You know how lights kind of dim on slowly?
No, the light sort of just snapped right on, and that's when I looked over and saw it, and that's when I'm assuming at least, that's when it stopped moving, is when the light came on, and it was right under the motion sensor light, so it must have moved really fast in order to trigger it as soon as it got there. I'm not certain how fast or how far away it was. And honestly, I am thankful that I don't know how fast it can move, because I sleep better knowing less about it.
There's a video out there of a creature jumping across the 4-lane highway.
Yes, I've seen that.
The car almost hits it as it gets to the other side. And it looks like a long, lanky, humanoid figure. It's jumping out, putting its arms out like it's going to be diving in the water, or diving like a dive.
Yes, sir.
And its hands hit, and it brings its leg kind of like a dog, but 2 legs at the same time. And it's just kind of galloping its way, vroom, 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 I think 3 times, and it hits the other side of the road. It's a pretty good video. We'll have to find that one. But I always seen that video, and I always said, that's a rake. That's what a rake is. People are seeing these things. That's what I assume it is. It's lanky. It's white looking. It's creepy looking. Not something you'd want to find under your bed, at night.
No.
But Corey, we thank you for coming on and talking to us. We've been wanting a rake encounter, and it looks like we finally got one. So
no kidding. We finally got one. Right on, man.
I'm glad to help.
We're glad you're safe, too, so we're glad you survived that one.
Likewise. Part of me wishes it was longer so I could talk to you guys a little more about it, but at the same time, it felt like an eternity that I was yes, as I was saying. On the one hand, I'm glad it was only a short encounter, but on the other, the more cryptozoology part of me, which I'm studying in college, wishes that I had seen it just a little bit longer so I could have gotten a little more detail about it in case I missed anything. But on the one hand, I'm very grateful to have seen it because now I know that it exists. But on the other hand, I wish I hadn't seen it because now I know that it exists.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Do you want to see a Bigfoot someday?
I would, yes. I imagine them more skittish but gentle. I'd hope so, at least.
I would hope, yeah.
Well, if you do see one, get back in touch with us and let us know. Or if you see this...
Hey, ask your dad if he wants to come on and talk about his encounter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll reach out to him as well.
All right. Well, you take care, Corey. We appreciate it, man. And
yeah, we do.
Stay safe if you're out there.
You as well, Todd and Brian. Thank you so much.
Did a great job, buddy.
And you did good.
Yep.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night, gents.
You too. See you, bud.
All right, Corey. You too. Take care.
Man, I've been looking for this. We've been looking for this. We think this is a Rake Creature, right?
That's what it sounded like to me. I looked it up while he was talking, and that's the description he gave us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
ever since we started this almost 2 years ago, I've been wanting to get a Rake encounter, and they're few and far between. Nobody knows what these things are. They're creepy. They don't have a mouth. Do they eat? What the hell is going on, people? Something. Tell me. Somebody tell me something.
So we finally got one, and these are weird. So let's hope we can get some people coming forward and opening up about this a little more. I know some more people have seen them.
Right. So if you have, reach out to us. info@cryptidcreatures.co. Brian, how else can they get a hold of us?
You can get us at our website at www.cryptidcreatures.net. We're on Instagram at Cryptid Creatures. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere.
Yes. And everyone, we appreciate the listens. Thanks for being here and listening. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here. So,
yeah, man, we appreciate all of you.
All right. Brian, I appreciate you as well, my friend.
Always fun, brother. Always fun.
Let's get out of here.
Yep. See ya.